Hello and welcome to the Biblonian Podcast. My name is Michael and I'm the host and creator of this podcast. And I'm just so excited to be here for this episode, having wrapped up our biggest season ever on the New Testament Apocrypha. Wow, I'm just blown away how much this podcast has grown in its extent to reach to all these different podcast platforms, in its production value, moving now to video podcasts, and in me getting a new co-host, the resources I'm making to accompany the podcast, and you, audience, in how you're interacting with the podcast and joining along. And I wanted to make this episode not only as kind of a looking back at the past season and just being grateful for that and how much I've grown there, but really more so looking forward to the season to come. That just like this past season, which started on the first Sunday of Advent, this new season will likewise begin on the first Sunday of Advent, which is the beginning of the Christian calendar. So definitely be looking out for that. Now, you may be wondering, what are we going to be exploring in this new season of the Biblonian podcast? The answer goes to what the Biblonian is about. For the past season, and maybe even longer, I've been talking about studying with the scholars, the sages, and the scriptures. And so you'll notice that whenever we're having a Biblonian podcast episode, we're talking about the scriptures, but frequently indirectly. With these past two seasons, especially, we've been looking at more so the sages. The Old and New Testament Apocrypha are these primary source texts from Jews and Christians, people who were just after the Old Testament and just before the New Testament, or just after the completion of the canon, who are writing with these new insights that give us a new cultural and theological background for the canonical scriptures for Christians. And that's what the sages are. These are some of our greatest ways. These are some of the greatest sources for understanding the scriptures on their own terms. That is besides, of course, the scriptures, which is why I list the scriptures last in the series, the kind of three streams for the Biblonian podcast. Even when we're exploring these sages, we're also talking about what scholars are saying about the scriptures and about these sages. And then we're talking about the sages, which are really like not the scriptures themselves, but just outside the scriptures, the first people to experience the scriptures and to give us a look behind the curtain of the scriptures, and then the scriptures themselves. So you have kind of these different three layers and three streams that all flow into the stream that circles around Babylonia. So with that, we've looked at ancient Jews and ancient Christians who were either just preceding Christ or just following after Christ. Well, in this next season of the Biblonian podcast, we are going to be exploring the pagans that preceded the Jews and the canonical Old Testament. And so I'm super excited to explore the ancient Near East with y'all, as we're going to look at some famous stories that you for sure know, famous texts like the Epic of Gilgamesh and the Atrahasis Epic and the Code of Hammurabi and the Enuma Elish. So we're going to be looking at these. We're going to be comparing them to the Old Testament. Obviously, there's going to be a lot more on that at the beginning of the season when we introduce it all. So look for that at the beginning of the Christian calendar. But I also wanted to let you know about a big update. I'm always updating my website, adding in new works, things that I've studied, overviews, resources, and notes to help you understand, again, the scholars, the sages, and the scriptures. And with my latest update of the website, that's what it's all been about, is making sure you as the audience can see what I'm studying in the scholars, sages, and scriptures and benefit from those resources yourselves. But there's been a problem up until now, because whenever I made an addition to my website or whenever the podcast had any type of update, there wasn't really a very good way for me to reach out to the followers of this podcast. Well, now there is. Introducing the Biblonian Times. This is a new free newsletter for you to stay updated and to see and to hear whenever I have just finished an overview of some ancient primary source that you can now look at. Whenever I'm making an update or an addition to the Biblonian podcast, any updates at all that you're interested in, I'm going to leave the link right here in this bio The link to the Biblonian Times, my newsletter, will be right here in the description to this episode. So make sure to go check that out, put your email in, and subscribe so that you can stay updated with whatever is new in Babylonia. Even though this next season of the Biblonian podcast will not start until the beginning of the Christian calendar, I have a couple of more other videos that I'm going to be adding to my YouTube channel. So if you're listening to this podcast, but you don't follow me on YouTube, then make sure to go over to my YouTube channel to listen to those episodes, those videos, so that you can hear what it is that I'm going to be talking about. We're going to be looking at some stuff that have to do with the Dead Sea Scrolls and another little lesser known sect of Judaism that is actually very close to Christianity. So make sure that you head over to my YouTube channel, subscribe to that, and stick around to have those videos that are more one-offs than whole seasons to be incorporated into. And in the beginning of the Christian calendar, we'll begin with the ancient Near East, which I'm just so pumped for. I'm pumped to explore ancient Near Eastern literature with all of you, the audience, and with my new co-host, which I'm so excited for y'all to meet. There might be collaborations with other people. I'm excited for all y'all to experience and see that yourselves. But until then, with the scholars, the sages, and the scriptures, make sure to Bible on.